Go, Brandon.
Hey guys, I wanted to give my response to Joe Biden's State of the Union address last night, or as Joe Biden would say, this the Union address. He referenced some things in terms of firearms, and I want to kind of do a reaction video, if you will, to address those things.
And will do everything in my power to crack down on gun trafficking of ghost guns that you can buy online, assemble at home, no serial numbers, can't be traced.
Okay, when he's talking about ghost guns, obviously we know he's talking about 80% lowers. The thing is, since before time, man has been able to make, in the United States, make their own firearms because, for one, there weren't manufacturers back then. But when you're making your own firearm, there's nothing illegal about that. Why should there be anything illegal about that? If a criminal is making a firearm and using it in the commission of a crime, why don't you just impose the existing gun laws on them when they commit the crime? In other words, there's no crime committed to create the firearm. It's when it's used in the commission of a crime. So how about you properly use the gun laws on the books and prosecute those people to the fullest when they use any gun? I don't care what kind of a gun they use. I know ghost guns sound scary, but the crime is what scares me, not the creation of a gun with no serial numbers.
Pass universal background checks. Why should anyone on the terrorist list be able to purchase a weapon? Why? Why?
I know why. I know why, Joe. The reason why they're trying to tie the terrorist watch list, you guys may or may not remember, the terrorist watch list came up, I want to say it was during Obama's administration, and it was a watch list that they put up that simply had people who had red flags on their names. Kind of like whenever you get denied with a background check, it doesn't mean that you're guilty of anything. It certainly doesn't mean that at all. It means there's a red flag. In other words, your name could be, and I'm not saying this jokingly, your name could be Osama bin Laden. That doesn't mean that you have bombed the World Trade Center or whatever other things he might have done. It just means you have a similar name to a person who is on the true terror watch list, not a terror no-fly list that they have. There's a terror no-fly list and there's a terror watch list. The terror no-fly list is the one that we're talking about here. That's where people can be prohibited or stopped from flying just on a hunch, and they may never know that. In other words, the terror watch list, you can actually be put on that terror no-fly list, rather, and not even know about it until you actually go to try to fly. And it could be a mistake, and it could be corrected. It could be corrected. It doesn't mean that it will be corrected. Sometimes it takes many, many weeks and months to actually get your name off of that terror no-fly list. So my point is there are lots of errors, tons of errors on that. In fact, if you'll remember Senator Kennedy, Ted Kennedy, what a horrible person he was. Senator Kennedy actually, his name wound up on the terror watch list. And it took him kind of like an act of Congress to get his name off of there. Senator Ted Kennedy was a horrible person, but he was not a terrorist. But he was deemed to not on the no-fly list, the terror no-fly list, because his name happened to show up on there. There's no reason for people whose name might wind up purposely or accidentally on the terror no-fly list to not be able to purchase guns. They should not be on any kind of a list that prohibits you from purchasing a firearm because there are so many errors. There are actually more errors than there are accuracies on the terror no-fly list. So that's why, Joe.
Ban assault weapons with high-capacity magazines hold up to 100 rounds.
I honestly don't know what he just said. That 100 rounds. Ban assault weapons with 100 rounds.
Ban assault weapons with high-capacity magazines hold up to 100 rounds.
You are infringing upon my Second Amendment rights as a honest, law-abiding, non-criminal, human, American citizen by telling me I can't have a standard capacity magazine of 30 rounds or even 100 rounds just because you think a criminal might use one in the commission of a crime. There's no reason to disenfranchise me because of something hypothetical that somebody else who is a criminal might actually do.
You think the deer are wearing Kevlar vests?
Why does this idiot keep using that same old tired joke? How many times have we heard that stupid joke? Do you think the deer are wearing a Kevlar vest? Even if deer were wearing a Kevlar vest, it doesn't matter to me. The Second Amendment. Now this is a lesson for a stupid moron like Joe Biden, who's been in Congress for 50 years. The Second Amendment has nothing to do with hunting. Literally zero. Hunting is a byproduct of what the Second Amendment was intended for. The Second Amendment was intended for us to keep and bear arms. Oh, guess what? I can also take my firearm and go hunting with it. We weren't intended to have guns to hunt. We just happen to have the Second Amendment, and we also hunt with the guns that are protected by the Second Amendment.
Look, repeal the liability shield. It makes gun manufacturers the only industry in America that can't be sued. The only one.
There's no liability shield. This is an outright lie. This is an absolute lie. Joe Biden knows this. There was a law in 2005 called the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act. This law made it very, very clear, and it laid out exceptions where manufacturers or dealers can be held liable for damages of their weapons. It may be in terms of defects or, a firearm that was made incorrectly. Actually, legitimate reasons why you could sue anybody for anything. If you make a defective or a faulty product that hurts somebody due to negligence in the engineering or the manufacturing process, obviously you should be sued. Just like all the airbag suits that we have in cars. When those things are not performing properly and people are getting hurt, you have the right to sue somebody. However, if you misuse that car, you cannot sue anybody. You can't sue Ford because you drove your car into a crowd of people. That's what they're wanting to do. They're wanting to hang on this Remington thing that just happened where the insurers actually settled with families. They're wanting to open that back up because they feel like that's how they can bury the gun community. But again, there are already laws in place. He's outright lying when he says that the gun community, or the gun manufacturers rather, can't be sued and that they're protected. They're absolutely not. You just can't sue, rightfully so. You can't sue a gun manufacturer because somebody takes that gun that was made properly, functions properly, and they misuse it to go murder a bunch of people. You can't sue anybody for that. That's just absolutely stupid. That's like suing an acid manufacturer when somebody pours muriatic acid on somebody's head and burns them. It's clearly not the manufacturer of the muriatic acid. It was used incorrectly and negligently and intended to harm somebody. That's what he's trying to undo. Because again, what he's describing, that they can't be sued, is wrong. It's an outright lie. I don't like to see people like Joe Biden, what he did last night in the State of the Union address, complete lies. One thing I do want to point out that's very not related to guns, but it's just a perfect example of an outright lie, is when Joe Biden tells you that he's somehow relieving the pressure of our energy dependence on Russian oil by releasing 30 million gallons of oil from these strategic reserves. Sounds great, right? 30 million barrels. 30 million barrels sounds like a lot, doesn't it? We use 22 million barrels a day. So what Joe Biden is telling you basically relieves pressure for 1.5 days. Joe Biden's throwing this number out there to make you think that he's actually doing something. He's doing absolutely nothing. We're going on a week of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. So 1.5 days does zero. But you got people out there championing him because of that. We got to protect our Second Amendment rights, guys. It's lies like that that are going to be used continuously to attack us. We have midterms coming up. The midterms should be a bloodbath in terms of Democrats. There's already 40-something Democrats who are not seeking re-election in the midterms. They see the writing on the wall. Let's make sure we push and make that happen to where they're all out of there as we go downhill to the presidential election in 2 more years, because that gap in time between the midterms this year and the presidential election in 2 years, I sound like Biden when I say presidential election. I'm running my words together like him. That's whenever they're going to seek to do some things with the Second Amendment. I don't see them trying to attack the Second Amendment too much this year. I know Biden addressed those last night, but that's because he has big-time lobbyists and those anti-gun groups that are sending him a lot of money. So he kind of had to say those things. But don't look for any real push, like a loud push. There will be more of a quiet push for gun control this year as we head into those midterms. So just be on the lookout, guys. Hey, guys, never be afraid to be the safest person in the room and the deadliest.
Let's go, Brandon.